hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas. This is our Bedtime Stories from Beyond. So I hope you guys are all set and ready to go. I got some great stories pulled up for you and some news to share and some things to go over. So I don't know, get all tucked in, wrap up tightly, turn on the night light because it's time for bed. All right, guys, we are here and ready to go. Hi, Deb. Hi. Special hello to Cherry Luella, who just made it in for the first time to see a live show. I think she's seen some other ones, but she's here tonight. So that's really cool. And a special hello to all of you guys who are here. Cade Shipley, Brian Gasca, Lori, Deb, Zero, Gemini. Who else is? Renee's here. Lena is here. Aloha, Lena. Travis is here. Chev is here. I'm just going through the list. I'm doing it old school because I just don't believe in the participants list. They're not always straightforward with us, I don't think. So I think that's everyone I've seen so far. If I missed your name, just yell at me and say, hey. Because, Lewis is here. Hey, Lewis. Ian's Magic Oak. That's Sean. How you doing, brother? Good to see you. Sean, I got to talk to you at some point. If you message me on Facebook at some point in the near future, just holla at me, holla at a brother. Know what I'm saying? Cade, did I say Cade Shipley already? Cool. If not, hello again. I don't always remember what the hell I've already said, but I do the best I can. So, welcome everybody that's here. Michigan Rob, Bigfoot Michigan Rob is here. Great to see you. They're just piling in, folks. It's standing room only here in the chat room. But I hope you guys had a great Monday. It's over. It's behind you. Time to move forward. So, I got some news. It's a little frustrating because I was really pumped up about this being the debut day to our new podcast, which would have gone out today and was going to go out today, except that the company that distributes the podcasts messaged me and said, hey, there's already a Paranormal Portal on iTunes. And I was like, what? So it's come to my attention. There is another show using my title. I did some research. They never did call their show Paranormal Portal until last August. They changed their name. I've been using Paranormal Portal since it started back in April 23rd, as a matter of fact, 2016. Was the debut of the Paranormal Portal, ladies and gentlemen, on TFRlive.com. So that was our maiden voyage. And so we've been at it for a long time working on this. So I've been dealing with legalities and trademark issues all day, trying to get this resolved. hopefully we'll get it all ironed out real quickly. But man, this is not the hurdle that I wanted to deal with right now. It's one of those things. I would like to believe that it was an innocent mistake on their part. I'd like to believe that. But, we weren't in the podcast space before, but we have been, on many podcasting platforms like iHeart and others before this. So it's not like we weren't a presence there already, as TFR Live is carried by iHeart and Clearstream Media. So hopefully we'll get this resolved quickly and get this podcast launched. I'm a little frustrated by it, and it's been a long and trying day, but I think everything will work out fine. It's just that there's a couple things left to clear up before that can happen. Not the Monday I wanted, but maybe the Monday I needed. I'm just trying to be all optimistic about it. I don't know, ladies and gentlemen, but that's just the latest of the current events. Hey, did Duke come in? Good to see you, Duke. Duke, I messaged you on MeWe. Make sure to check that out if you haven't already. Just some follow up on that thing we were talking about. That thing we were talking about. I'm all speaking in code here on the show. But you got to love it, ladies and gentlemen, because otherwise you'll be a spiteful, hateful person. And that's just not a good way to live. So I got some stories pulled up for you. I hope you guys will enjoy them. I always enjoy reading them to you. And I hope you will find yourself thoroughly entertained before I'm all done here. And if you're not, then just remember you get what you pay for. All right, so let's get started here. Where are we going first? Right off the bat, we're heading to Pennsylvania. So this one sounds like an addendum to another one, but I'm not going to try to figure out what his other one that this person submitted at some point in the past. And I'm sure, chances are we probably have read it anyway, but let's go over and see what was going on here. I said, last night I had something happen that was really creepy in my apartment. It says, I was in my bed asleep, and my wife was in the living room watching something, mind-numbing on E! Entertainment or MTV or whatever, and I'd just fallen asleep, and I heard a female crying. I woke up and figured it was whatever my wife was watching, but it was very clear, and there was no way it came through a wall. About 30 seconds later, I was wide awake at this point, and I heard it again, and it was right next to me by the closet door. I was totally freaking out. I don't blame you. That's creepy. I will say that it was a long day of getting allergy tests, and I watched some episodes of Ghost Hunters shortly before bed, but this sound was so clear. It was as if every other sound from the AC and the TV in the other room had been blocked out so I could hear this sound perfectly clearly, and only this sound. I'm wondering if, in fact, we do have some kind of spirit that might be residing in our apartment. If we're going to see more activity, because we're moving, our apartment is infested with mold, and I'm really allergic to it, and we're moving out in November, and I've packed most everything that we will not need on a daily basis. Perhaps it knows we'll be leaving and is sad and just wants to make sure we get out. That's interesting. Now, I brought this up a few episodes ago. I don't know, maybe sometime last week, maybe before. I don't know. The days all blend together for me, but with my command of time, it could be any time within the last 6 months. But what my idea is, and I find these things really interesting. So he mentions in his narrative that every other noise in the whole space was like it was muted, and it was like he could specifically hear this crying so clearly. Now, here's the thing. There are so many stories of people being in groups, going into a haunted space, and one person will hear this absolutely incredible EVP or something. They will hear some kind of disembodied voice, but nobody else will hear it. And I wonder if, by virtue of that happening, either A, the spirits can directly target people and actually these noises may not be sound vibrations as we traditionally understand them, but rather energy vibrations that can be picked up by, micro cassette recorders or micro recorders or in our heads. So either the spirits are picking who hears the message, or my other idea is that perhaps people pick these things up when they're in just this maybe an altered state of mind. And I'm not speaking of chemical alteration necessarily, although that could be the case as well. But I'm speaking of perhaps they're in just an incredibly lucid spiritual state and may not even realize it. It may be more subconscious, but they're suddenly aware of so much more of our reality. And so they catch these weird things, like maybe they catch apparitions because they can see into more dimension or vibration than normal. And they can hear these sounds because they're able to perceive that differently than just through the mechanical ear. And so they catch these incredible experiences, and then the shock of it shocks them back to their normal state. So they leave this heightened state of awareness, even though it may have just happened briefly. Now, this person talks about how he was laying in bed, had just fallen asleep. So, that's probably one of those states where we're really, really wide open. And so perhaps there's some merit to my theory on this, that by virtue of him being in that relaxed, open state, he was able to perceive this crying. And perhaps it's a residual thing that he was able to pick up. Perhaps it's intelligent. I don't know. Well, apparently they've had other activity in this space, because he references having done other stories. And so that is very possible that he was just in a very receptive state and could hear the crying of the spirit. I just can't imagine, though, that what a horrible thing to be stuck in a state of sadness like that. That's the part that really breaks my heart personally. It's like, wow, that's all you can feel is that pain, and so I really hope that these situations don't last long for these spirits, because, man, what a tormented existence to only feel that tragedy and pain. But anyway, just some thoughts, food for thought. Take it or leave it. I don't know. But I think there might be something to that. Either they can target individuals and it's more of a telepathy or energy than it is a physical kind of voice or experience. But maybe it's not. Maybe it's the people that are in this wide open space or wide open receptive frame of mind. But it's a working theory. I got nothing to quantify it with, just an idea that popped into my head. And since I get a microphone, you get to hear about it. So, cool story. The next one is coming out of Texas, ladies and gentlemen. Always things hopping down in Texas. Lots of stuff going on. So, let's see what's going on in this case. I got to get a drink. I'm got a serious cottonmouth cooking. I think that's better. I hope so. You don't hear my mouth smacking as I talk as much, maybe. All right. Let's see. Blah, blah, blah. Fluffy stuff at the beginning. I used to stay with my mother in a two-bathroom apartment in a really popular neighborhood that was in Houston, Texas. And it's called Acre Homes, I guess. Yeah. My twin cousins, me, and my oldest niece were all in the bed in my room, having one of those late night girl chats. And I remember myself falling asleep earlier than I thought I would, and I always did anyway, but I fell asleep with them talking in the background. And I remember the dream/nightmare I had so vividly. In this dream, I was being chased by a man that I didn't know, and he was convinced that I was familiar with him. Trying to escape his taunts, my fast walk became a steady sprint, and while in a full-out run, the guy was trailing behind me until I thought I lost him. I stopped at a street corner, huddled over, trying to catch my breath, and after a few gaping gasps, I looked over my shoulder, and a strong force pushed me into oncoming traffic. I woke up in a sweat with an intense feeling of pressure and heat on my back. I told my cousins and niece about the dream frantically, ran to the bathroom mirror and lifted up my shirt, and there on my shoulder blades were 2 full-grown handprints. A few minutes later, the prints turned from red to blue, as if it was bruising, but I still felt the heat. When reminiscing about that night, my cousins and niece joke around saying that I yelled, "Someone pushed me," as soon as I woke up. I can laugh at it now, but then at that time I was absolutely terrified. That's pretty powerful. If there's handprints, obviously it seems to be an intelligence doing that. Otherwise, that person's incredibly powerful on a whole different level, that they're manifesting those effects. Now, there is something interesting, though, and this is apparently a very pretty well documented power of our human mind. So there was this experiment where this speaker was talking about the power of suggestion and how people really fall into this, and they're creating things a lot more than they think they are. And for this experiment, he blindfolded someone, and he had them blindfolded and sat in a chair, and he had 2 people hold one of each of his arms on this chair, and he said, "Now I want to warn you, I'm going to touch you with something that's extraordinarily hot. I'll be real quick about it, but I just want to warn you. Are you okay with that?" And the person's like, "Yeah, okay." And so the person's really bracing for it. And so the guy picks up an ice cube, and he walks over to the person and says, "Okay, here it comes. Are you ready? Take a deep breath." And the guy's like, "Yeah." And maybe it was a woman, I don't know, but guy or woman, whatever. It's the it's just semantics. The point is what happened. So he takes the ice cube and gently puts it on the skin of the person for like 2 or 3 seconds. And the person's like, "Ah!" And then he pulls it away, and he's like, "Oh man," the person is just mad or upset because this person just got severely burned. They took off the blindfold, looked at their arm, and there's already a blister welling up on their arm from where this contact was made. But the guy still is holding the ice cube and shows it to the person and said, "This is what I touched you with." So the person was so convinced that something was going to happen that they physically manifested a blister, because their interpretation of that extreme cold, they were told it was instead extraordinarily hot, and in their mind they were being burned. And so their body responded in kind, creating a blister just from a 2 or 3 second contact with an ice cube. So could that be something similar to what's going on in this story? Is this person believed they were pushed, and so they manifested these handprints on their back? Possibly. And I don't think that kind of stuff can be discounted, because we do create our reality. We literally do. Even to the point where if something was just a piece of ice, but somebody thought they were being burned, they created the response to a burn. And that's incredibly powerful. And so take it or leave it, but that kind of thing is out there. And that does demonstrate the ability of us to create an experience that didn't quite happen that way. So just food for thought, ladies and gentlemen. Just food for thought. Oh, hey, Wes, how you doing? Thanks for stopping in, brother. Good to see you. I'm ready. I think we're all ready for summer. I got out and did some barefooting today, so I was in a happy place. That is a good feeling. So anyway, let's see what's going on here. The next story, of course. And this one's coming out of Wisconsin, ladies and gentlemen. Wisconsin. I grew up looking at Wisconsin. I lived right on the Minnesota side of the Mississippi River, and across, of course, is Wisconsin. And they got great cheese, though, I'm going to tell you. True story. Great cheese in Wisconsin. All right, from Wisconsin, what's going on there? This is a long story, so bear with me, but I hope it's entertaining. It says, for about 9 months, my husband and I occupied one of the upstairs bedrooms in his parents' crowded 3-bedroom home. After the wedding, it's a Hmong tradition to have the bride reside with the groom's side of the family. Primary reason is to have the wife get accustomed to how the family functions and to assist with the household chores. That sounds like a good deal. It was a cold December weekend when the husband and I, when she says the husband and I were to move to our tiny one-bedroom apartment on the north side of town. His parents were out of town attending a wedding with the majority of his siblings, and the only people left at home were the two of us and his 4-year-old sister, Heidi, and his younger brother, who stayed behind to help with the move. Now, to give you a background of his parents' house, which they still reside in to this day, was built back in the 1920s, and while renovating the living room, we found old newspapers dating back to 1924, and they were used as insulation. Wow. Good thing they never had a fire. Jeez. In the walls. I got to tell you a story about my old Victorian house I used to own. I had sawdust in my walls for insulation, and that was pretty spooky when I dug that out. The house was an eerie appearance and dark areas where no matter how much sunlight came into the home, that area would still be dark as shadows. Moving on to the basement, I remember my husband telling me that when they moved in 18 some years ago, the basement had dirt ground that they had to replace with concrete. Today, the basement is still unfinished with just very minimal lighting, and it's really a frightening place to be if you're alone. So with the four of us at home, Heidi and I were upstairs packing the small, fragile items, while the husband and his brother were downstairs. This is clearly a loving relationship. The husband. Loading our things into the moving truck, and the only thing left in our room was the clothes in the closet, the TV, some DVDs, and my treasures, which are junk, according to the husband. While I packed the treasures into a box, Heidi was watching Disney's Beauty and the Beast in the room, and I never liked to be upstairs in that house by myself, and I noticed Heidi kept looking at the closet, and I thought maybe she wanted to play dress up or something, so I pulled out some of my old party dresses and laid them on the floor for her to pick out, but she didn't bother to look at them because she was still focused on the closet. I got a little bit concerned, so I sat in the middle between her and the closet, and I veered her attention back to the TV screen, and every 3 minutes or so, Heidi leaned over and to look back at the closet. "What is it?" I asked. "Nothing," she replied. We continued watching the movie, and I was so glued to the set that the next thing I knew, she was standing in front of the closet with the door open. "What are you looking at?" I asked her. I was looking at the giant stuffed bear the husband had given me for Valentine's, and "Is this what you want?" No, Nyab. What is that?" And Heidi asked without pointing to anything in particular, and Nyab translates to sister-in-law in the Hmong language, and I looked around the closet and didn't notice anything unusual. "What is what?" I asked, now really confused. So I opened the closet door more and went through the objects in it. Nothing was out of the ordinary, just clothes, shoes, and stuffed animals, and I was going to donate all those to Goodwill. And all of a sudden, Heidi screamed and pointed to something in the closet. "That, Nyab, what's that?" I looked again. There was nothing out of the ordinary. "I don't see what you're looking at." Then suddenly, Heidi was jumping up and down, still focused on whatever was in the closet, and her eyes were wide. It's a boy. It's a boy. He's tall. He is as tall as I. Who is he, Nyab?" "And what was the boy doing in the closet?" she asked. "What boy?" I asked, still searching through the heap of toys. And a few seconds later, it hit me that this was an entity that allowed Heidi to see him, but not me. I screamed and ran downstairs with Heidi trailing behind me. And although I didn't see or hear anything, I was still really afraid, and we got downstairs and joined the guys. Heidi was giggling, and I told the husband what happened, and he asked Heidi what she saw, and she replied, "I saw a boy sitting in Nyab's closet. He was as tall as I am, and he kept looking at me. I tried to talk to him, but he can't talk back." It's so funny because Nyab was so scared. She continued giggling, and I was relieved that she found the thing amusing, but I can still picture her face when she saw the boy. She went absolutely pale, and her eyes were wider than ever, and I was so afraid that it was going to traumatize her. It's been 2 years since that incident, and the younger brother and his new bride are living in that very room today. Recently, the wife said she had a bad dream, and she woke up to find a dark figure standing by the closet. I guess the boy is still there. Yikes. I don't know what it is with closets. I don't understand that. I can't figure out why do people continually have issues with closets? You can't wreck my show, Wes. my show is always in a creative state of havoc, so there's nothing you can do to wreck that. But I'm not sure what's going on, but I just saw that remark. We roll with it. Whatever happens on the portal happens in the portal. It's like our own mini Vegas. So I hope you guys enjoyed that story. Is somebody calling? Is that what's going on? Feel free. I think Lady Death should call in and explain her screen name. Yeah. Is Lady Death in here? She is. Oh, it's great to see you, lady. I hope you're doing well on your rebound from your surgery. I hope everything's coming together. We've been hoping for your rapid healing, so it's good to see you back, and thanks so much for being here. Bigfoot Busters, that's a new one. I don't think I've seen that one before. Good to see you, and thanks for coming in. New names. All right, so the next one seems to be having to do with an apparition that a trucker has experienced. And these stories I find absolutely compelling as hell. The idea that, we often think hauntings, and when we've talked to MCAT, of course, he shared that he's had several experiences as he's been going over the road and such. But, we think that's ghosts are just in the houses. They're in graveyards. They're in these places. But sometimes they're wherever they want to be. And actually, it's kind of neat that Wes is in here because he shared a story that a trucker had shared with him about some strange things he saw. And I imagine if anybody's going to experience some real weirdness out in the vast spaces, that truckers are a pretty good candidate because they're always moving. They're seeing new things all the time. So. But let's see what happened to this guy. Oh, we do have a call here. All right. So let's get to the call first, and then we'll get to the trucker. How you doing, Sean?
Hi. Doing okay now. My pneumonia is finally gone.
You actually had pneumonia?
Yeah, for about 3 weeks. It was the worst.
No kidding. Wow. I'm glad you're okay.
My parents used to chain smoke and keep us trapped in with it, so I had pneumonia about 8 times before I was 5. So depending on what doctor you talk to, I have between 20 and 40% scar tissue in my lungs. So when I get pneumonia, it's like lay down, don't go anywhere. I mean, sitting in front of the computer, I just feel faint, like I was exerting myself. So I didn't do a whole lot, so I feel pretty bad.
Well, I'm glad you're on the mend now. Everything going okay now?
Yeah, much better.
Okay.
What you're hearing in me now is just local allergies.
Okay.
But you said, why do closets seem to be a thing?
Yes. Why do closets seem to be a thing? And ladies and gentlemen,
whenever I need to focus, I actually will usually open my closet door and will focus through it when I'm needing to be able to focus on the other side. Because it's actually an open portal. It's an open door, and it doesn't lead to much of anything except a lot of darkness. So things that like to gate through using shadows can use it like crazy. And I learned that when I was a kid. And it's not always bad things, but it most of the time the things that are memorable are untoward creatures. So.
Oh, okay.
One of the things that I learned that happens most often. And it is a spot that needs to be taken care of quite often around children because their fear will amp up what will end up being, will open up the portal to things that they usually don't want to have come through. But it's like a catch-22. The more they see, the more they fear, the more they fear, the more that comes through.
Mm-hmm.
Catch-22.
Right, right. Now, as long as you're on the phone, ladies and gentlemen, Sean is one of the Portal psychics. He's been a part of the show for years and has been a great contributor and has brought some really incredible ideas and knowledge to the table. But for things like closets, what can people do? What would you recommend for toning them down, as you say?
Well, first of all, the the whole idea of putting a kid into the closet to get them over their fears, don't ever do that. That was how.
Yeah,
that's
bad advice.
That was how my brother and sister tried to get me past what they thought was just idle fears because they couldn't see anything.
Yeah, that's horrible.
And that isn't just closets. That could even be like when my brother shoved me down a coal scuttle under my aunt's house in England, and there was a thing down there that literally beat on my back until they got me 3 hours later. And my mother was blaming the bruises on my back on the slide down the nice slippery coal scuttle.
Wow.
I don't remember hitting anything on the way down.
Sure.
She didn't want to listen.
Right.
But if you're trying to get rid of anything that can come through the portal, you just have to make it so that it's not accessible. In this case, you can't just throw down salt. You can't do any of that sort of thing. What you do need to do, however, is you can get particular herbs like oil of myrrh or frankincense and dab it all the way around the entire portal, like the inside of the closet door, all the way around. Just trace the oil all the way around. Or colloidal silk works pretty well too. They really hate that. And let's see, you can also use, I think Diane was talking about using different colored tape to mark a spot in front so that, and basically delineate it as not accessible. And if you have enough ability, you can also mark it with a particular holy symbol, which Aisha did for all of the doors in her house and turn popsicle sticks into crosses.
Oh, okay.
This works on multiple levels, whether you're Christian or pagan, for almost exactly the same reason. To a pagan, the cross is actually a symbol, the oldest symbol of the four elements before King Solomon created the pentacle.
Okay.
And that basically means things are off limits. It's the reason why vampires are afraid of either the crucifix or a cross. It makes no difference. That's according to the myths.
And I see your Facebook message. No, you're not in trouble. No, nothing like that.
I just pray people are like, I want to talk to you. It's like, oh, what do I do now?
No, it's actually about a weird
couldn't have been
experience.
much.
A weird experience that we had on the show the other night. So, just wanted to run it by you.
Fire away if you got time. I mean, whenever you have a moment.
I don't want to get into it now on the air, but we'll talk afterwards. So, but yeah, I mean that's fantastic. I think that again, the symbols should be something that resonate with the person doing them. So, for instance, if you're not Jewish, putting a Star of David up is probably not going to be an incredibly potent symbol for you. But if you are Christian, a cross or crucifix can be incredibly powerful. Or if you're into some pagan religions like runes, specific runes can be incredibly powerful. What about crystals?
That's one of the things I actually wanted to talk to you about. So there's a gentleman who I'm trying to help, and he is a truck driver, and he's currently running into issues, and I can't focus on him as he's traveling without a crystal. And a crystal is one of the easiest ways to keep things back from you. As long as you have it, somebody who has enough energy can actually, and I did this for friends in Florida, Arizona, and I'm in California. Basically, as long as I know they've got it, I can ping it with enough energy that it basically acts like a vibrating, like a tuning fork, and it emits its own astral light and can keep things back. And you can, as long as you keep it charged up, or you have someone who can charge it up for you, you can actually put it above the door, if you don't mind putting it above the door. Another thing to do also is a horseshoe. Remember we discussed that one, how the devil is afraid of it because a pope actually nailed one to his foot and made it so he couldn't get it off until he begged forgiveness. Right. That's the reason it's supposed to help with bringing good luck. It's not really bringing good luck as much as it is making the devil tear off in shame because of past memories.
Ah, okay. That's right. I remember that now. Now that you bring that back up, yeah. Now, is there anything to that? Now, I've heard with the horseshoes, and I'm just going to run this by you. Is there anything to the fact that they should be, the curve should be on the bottom and the open end should be on the top, or does it matter?
It realistically doesn't matter. To the Irish, it matters because it's supposed to catch the good luck. But the original myth, the original story of it, is that it was just the horseshoe period, because that got nailed to his feet and one of his feet and the devil's hooves, and traumatizing to him, but ran him off. That was literally it.
Okay.
So it makes no difference up, down, just as long as it's there. And I actually do find that I like better when they are aligned with the north, so that they have a bit of a magnetic charge, because a little bit of goss does seem to make a difference. And I'm not sure why, but it does.
Okay. And how do you align a horseshoe with the north? Like, that it would be on a north-facing wall, or what? What do you mean?
It's like aligning any magnet. You basically point it north and then strike it, so that it will actually pick up a Gauss charge.
Oh, okay.
So in this case, you point the U to the north, and then strike it in such a fashion with I can't remember if it's another iron or a steel hammer, and it picks up a slight charge, and that is what really makes a difference. Because the Gauss, like I said, for some reason it makes it charged, and it does seem to be like, I can walk under one and I can tell if it's got a slight magnetic charge, just being within a few feet of it.
Oh,
it
fantastic.
just feels different.
Okay.
It has like this cool sensation, like you're walking under ice water.
Oh, very cool. Okay. Yeah, I think those kind of symbols and talismans and things I think are incredibly interesting, and I think, it's the kind of knowledge that certainly can't hurt. If people are having issues and they put up some of these different talismans or symbols and they work, then great. And if they don't, well, at least you tried. I don't know. It's just, I think.
And there's so many out there.
Right. I think there's this huge toolbox of information out there, and I don't think most people have it. So they're kind of left to whatever is going on a ghost show or whatever they can stumble on the internet. So I think one of the things I really enjoy about the portal is our my desire to put a lot of that information into this forum, so that it's available if people need that assistance or that help. So,
and it's really something that people have lost a lot of, not because it's because a lot of the information on the internet is just become so generic about these things that, and people will run to Wikipedia. I cringe inwardly about a lot of these answers, and it's almost like going to a dentist and saying, "Hey, can you set my broken leg?" And the dentist could be like, "Hey, I'll give it my best shot."
Right.
You're not prepared for it, or and so there's this data out there, and some of it is a mix of folk tales, which have lost the roots of what created the information, the story, the data, like with the whole horseshoe thing. I was looking forever to find out anything that would tell me anything about where the horseshoe story came from. And where I actually encountered it was I was leafing through stories online and got referred to a book series because I was curious where the story of Darby O'Gill and the Little People came from and why there was so much information. And I found the original books. And then on the shelves where I found the original books, there was this one on old Irish myths and legends. Okay, well, let me pick this up. And that was where I actually found out that the whole idea of the banshee being your enemy was invented when Christianity came into Ireland in order to put a new bad guy, good guy spin on things. In fact, the Darby O'Gill books even were portraying the leprechauns as if you were taken away by them, you were outside of the grace of God and you were trapped beneath the earth, and it was a terrible thing, and you couldn't get away. But originally speaking, that was, if you look to the original stories that the writer of the Darby O'Gill stories had read and learned from, these were the Christian-induced new versions of the stories.
Okay. And
you get to read some of the more raw data, and it's like, well, no, they were puckish. They would play with humans. They would the worst that they would ever do is let you see money and then take it away, so that they go, ha ha, look, the human was so gullible that they believed that they could actually get a pot of gold, which is where the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow idea came from.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So it's a much more in-depth mythology, where you find that these things that we're being told now are, they work this way, and these creatures are dangerous. It turned out originally they work a completely different way, and somehow this alteration got worked into the mix, either by fair means or foul, or somebody's design that
Right.
has changed what we think about things. We're literally walking what we think is the correct direction, going, oh, well, I'm following what they said, and it isn't. Like people being afraid of standing in a fairy ring. They're not going to spirit you away.
Yeah, no.
And if you
I got
suddenly
them.
disappear,
I got them in my yard,
you're not
and I'm
dead.
walking through them all the time.
Yeah. So it's not like they don't take offense to it. If they did, I guarantee you'd know. It would be. I think the traditional ways that they would tell you that they're unhappy with you is souring your milk, eating all of your honey, making sure that you can't find your bread,
Sure.
causing all of your iron, crockery to crack, so you'd have to pay to replace them, which is costly.
Yes.
They don't like the iron anyway.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Okay.
But you don't hear that happening anymore, and it's not like they just go around going, "We hate you because you are fill in the blank."
Right. Now I got to ask you, in terms of the horseshoe legend, and I think those old stories are beautiful, and I think that they're, maybe symbolic and stuff. But I have a hard time getting my head around the idea that's some pope was able to nail a horseshoe upon on a devil, so to speak. Do you think that, I mean, in your estimation, or your intuition on things like that, did that really happen, or do you think it's just a symbolic thing?
Well, if you go through the original stories and you read them, and then you read between the lines, the person who was a pope was also considered a great Irish sorcerer.
Oh, okay.
And so this is where you realize that somebody has done the St. Bridget marrying of the original stories to something that was more palatable to Christianity at the time. So what you do is you carefully pair off that part of the story, and then you read that and look into the history of that said person.
Gotcha.
More than likely, what I would say is this person probably figured out the original wizard, the Irish wizard, figured out how to be able to keep back evil. And had found with his own experimentation that the horseshoe, the iron horseshoe, was a very effective tool, possibly because it was probably one of the few things he had on hand at the time when he was facing down something such as I've done. And on more than one occasion, when you find these aha moments where something from above says, "Let me put you into the right situation where you find something's effective." And he probably found that the horseshoe that he had struck, that had a small amount of goss to it, allowed him to be able to channel his energy in such a way that it drove this thing off.
Very cool.
And so that's the Gandalfy thing, how he got the truth of the ring out of Smeagol.
Right, right.
You have to listen to all the lies and stuff until you can get down to the truth.
Very cool.
That's my best estimation.
Well, cool, brother, and thank you so much for calling in and being a part of the show.
You're welcome. You guys have a great night. See y'all later.
All right, take care. Have a good night. All right, and we got another call here, and this is someone we all know and love. Hello, Wes. Welcome to the show.
What on earth was that last guy you were on about?
What? I'm sorry? Are you there?
What in the world was that last guy going on about?
He was talking about, the idea of horseshoes being a symbol and talismans to keep negativity away, or to, settle spaces and stuff.
All right, well, let's get down to business. What's the deal with having a filthy animal like Tony Merkel calling into your show?
I don't know. We leave the lines open, and you just never know who's going to show up.
I mean, in order to build a successful show, you got to have a caliber of callers. And I can tell you that Tony Merkel really doesn't fit that bill.
Oh, we had a lot of fun when he called in. He told us how he exercised his furnace.
Oh, anyway, Brent, it's Wes. How are you, man?
Good, man. How are you?
Just thought I'd call in. I know the show's almost over with, but I thought I'd call in and say hi. And yeah, that's all I had.
No, that's great, man.
Thought I'd troll you a little bit.
And actually, there is no schedule for these bedtime stories. They can be just as long as they need to be. So I don't have a cutoff time really. It's just usually I get through some stories and that's about it. But when I get the calls, it's hard to end it. Everything
Hey,
good?
what's the deal with your admin? Her name's Lady Death.
Yeah.
Kind of a grim name for an admin, don't you think?
I know, but it fits, don't you think? The Paranormal Portal, and we got our own Lady Death. I think that's pretty solid.
I know she's so nice in the chat too.
Yeah,
You think she'd be a little more with that name? You think she'd be more of a strong arm in there?
Yeah, you'd think so, but no, she's awesome, and she's been a part of the portal for a long time now, and has always been showing up. And it's good to see her back in the saddle too. She was gone for a while, so we sure missed her.
Nice. Well, sorry to interrupt your show, man. Just thought I'd call and say hi.
No, man,
Thanks for having me on. I was curious why you would have a filthy animal like Tony Merkel on your show, but I guess to each his own.
We don't have the ability to screen the calls, so it was a lot of fun. But it's
there's no filter. You just pick it up.
I just answer it.
I get it.
It's great to hear from you, though, brother. Thanks so much for calling in and being a part of the show.
Yeah, have a good night. I'll be in touch this week. Take care of yourself.
All right, we'll talk to you soon then. That's really cool. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Wes Germer, the host of Sasquatch Chronicles. Just a fantastic guy and a lot of fun. And he and Tony Merkel are really good buddies as well. So it's kind of cool. And friends of Duke as well. So let's see. Where are we at here? We're at the trucker story that I was going to go into. How much time? Yeah, we got as much time as I want. Yeah. We got time to get through these last few stories, I think. So unless there's other calls, but I think the calls are always the most important deal. It's better to reach out and talk to you guys than it is just to share stories with you. But let's see what this trucker's going on about. He says, I really must share the story with you before I write my second experience. For those of you who have, oh man, I hate when they do that. They always refer to these other stories. He did another story where he mentioned an adopted mom has experienced some horrific hauntings, ghosts and spirits. And this is one that happened about a year ago. And so he says, my adopted mom called me in a frantic one afternoon. That's not the best language, but we'll roll with it. And what she told me brought chills to my whole body. She was traveling on a road in Arkansas when a herd of deer ran out in the middle of the road at 9:36 p.m., right to the minute. And traffic went to 70 miles per hour to brakes. And there were two 18-wheelers in front of her and three cars in front of them. So you can only imagine the outcome. The 18-wheelers had to stop so quickly that the trailer swung around and cleared everything within its path, including the cab of the truck. There was wreckage and deer all over the road, and luckily my mom was able to stop just in time due to the smart distance that she kept. It says far enough away that she was able to safely stop. She's driven truck for 20 years, and as she pulled off the median, she noticed a man standing 6 feet from her trailer. Wondering how a man got next to her trailer so fast and without her seeing him, she said he had one hand across his chest and one hand in his pocket, looking very confused. The rescue team was on the way while the police were questioning the accident, and one walked up to my mom and asked, "What happened here?" And as she was telling him about what had happened, she mentioned that someone needs to check this guy out back. By my trailer, he looks really confused. He might wander off into traffic, and then he suddenly vanished. The cop said, "What man?" Well, he was just right there in plain view. The officer got a description so detailed down to the facial hair and shoes, and he walked away for a minute and came back and said, "The man you described is the owner of that wrecked 18-wheeler and was found dead at the scene. She was in absolute shock as the cop just turned around and walked the other way. After she left, she stopped at the truck stop. On the news was the wreck she had just witnessed, and there were 4 fatalities that night. She even left the scene before the rescue teams came, and the man she had seen next to her truck was one of the victims in the accident. And that comes up a lot. That happens, that people that are near these fatal accidents often see these other people wandering around that don't really fit, and then they find out that they were the ones that lost their lives. That's got to be a very sobering experience, I'm sure. Now we got, this is from Virginia. This happened to me about a month or so ago, and I've posted it in a couple of places. One place for the entertainment of the others, and one place to try to find some answers to what was this encounter all about. I've been having ghost experiences since I was really young, and I'm 39 now and quite seasoned at ghostly contact, and I've seen and heard them and also felt them touch me. And I have one encounter with an animal ghost and a couple of encounters with shadow ghosts, and this last experience, though, seems to have combined the two and has left me a bit frightened. I just laid down in bed and was facing my bedroom windows, lying on my right side, and I'm in the third townhome. Townhome, okay. Sorry. I'm in the third townhome from the corner, and there's a street light on the corner, which affords a bit of a light into the bedroom. And I also have a 2-foot black light in the bedroom, which burns constantly. Ooh, I got to talk about black lights after this. I was lying there and noticed what I thought was my papillon, which sounds like a dog. I don't know. I'm not a very worldly dog owner or pet owner, so most of my dogs and cats have just been kind of mutts, except for my German Shepherd. But a papillon or papillon, I imagine it's papillon, with his forepaws on the mattress, appearing to look at me intently. I stared at him for a while and noticed that his figure wasn't moving. This was really uncharacteristic of my 2-year-old Pap, so I began examining the shadow a bit more in depth, and I noticed that the shadow was really, really dark. Darker than a normal shadow and of an animal should have been, and the thing also did not have my boy's butterfly ears. It appeared to be more the size and shape of a large house cat. I wanted to reach out to touch it to see if it was real, but something told me that I dare not do that. I suddenly became very afraid. This thing was about 6 inches from my face. Since I tend to sleep towards the very edge of the mattress, I squeezed my eyes shut for about a minute and then reopened them to see the thing still there. I kept staring at it, angry, scared, and it began doing this weird motion with its head. Picture a cat moving its head in an infinity symbol shape, like a sideways number 8. I became really scared at this point, and it was almost as if it wanted to hypnotize me. I closed my eyes again for a minute, and then when I looked again, the thing was finally gone. Whatever this was, I feel it was very ancient but lower level spiritually. As strange as this is going to sound, I feel that it was trying to get me out of my physical body to go on a journey that I didn't want to take. I don't know if this is a shadow ghost. I usually see them as very dark, fast-moving shadows on the floor of by my feet, or if this is some kind of psychic attack. I do know that this thing felt very malevolent and sinister. I did not like the way its essence or energy felt to me. This thing has disturbed me since it happened, and I was only able to bring myself to write about it a few nights ago. And I came here looking for answers. Perhaps someone knows what this could have been. This has bothered me more than any old human spirit ever could, and this thing was not human, and never was. Ideas, comments, suggestions? Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, a black light is actually got very ancient ritualistic uses. The ancient druids used to fashion a candle that was called a peloton, and it was basically a glass orb that was stained with a really dark violet light. And inside they would put a black candle, a small black candle, and light it. And then they would fashion these leather straps to carry it by. So it looked like this strapped ball that they would carry around. And they would light these candles in the night in the forest or wherever. It was used in many different ways, the peloton. But the really cool part about it was that it looked like the flame was suspended in, just floating around in the ball, because it was a black candle and a really deep violet stained glass orb. But it would emit what we know today as a black light. And the use of a peloton was to thin the veil, of our reality, so to speak. And so it was used very ritualistically to commune or communicate, or, for different castings or whatever. So black lights historically were used to thin the veil. They are believed to cause the veil to thin. So it doesn't surprise me that this person is having weird things appear by their bed, because they got a black light in their bedroom shining all the time. I mean, obviously, most people that burn black lights will probably never experience anything. It's not like these things are just everywhere waiting to be a nuisance and waiting to be noticed. But that's apparently the function of a black light, as I understand it, in ritualistic use. So take it or leave it, but I thought that was pretty interesting that was part of the story. All right, so next is coming from North Carolina. This one's not so long. No more calls, okay. Yeah, we're doing good. All right. Let's see. Sorry, I'm just looking up and seeing if I'm missing anything, which I'm always missing something, but So this one's North Carolina. My families have had bad ghost experiences a lot of times over the years, and my mom and aunt lifted their friend off the ground with the light as a feather, stiff as a board technique, and my great aunt wore a nightgown of a family member and was haunted for it, and others. But the one I'm going to tell you is so scary, it's famous. Are you ready for an ultimate scare? Well, I am. I don't know about you guys, but let's get into it and see what's going on here. My grandma and her family, sister, mom, and dad, moved into a house that was said to be haunted. Well, my grandmother's dad didn't believe in ghosts at all and bought the house anyway. And the first few nights were totally normal. But it was about a week before people started to make themselves known. While playing in the living room one evening, my grandmother and sister were patiently waiting for dinner, not paying any attention, when I believe the front door opened and they heard heavy, loud footsteps. No one was there. Through the living room, in and out of the kitchen, and out the door again. Wow. Everyone absolutely freaked out, but moved on. The next thing that happened was another night, and they heard heavy feet coming up the cellar stairs. Thinking it was my great-grandfather, the door opened, but no one was there, and they began to worry. But the only person not skeptical was my great-grandpa. So one night, they heard a man moaning and walking in the halls, and this went on for 2 nights. And when finally my great-grandpa exclaimed, if you're coming with me, you better get your clothes on. And they all left. No one ever stayed in the house again, but you can still see the basement where the man was buried. Here's the story of the house. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm a little froggy. A man, woman, and their daughter all lived in a house. The man would get drunk and come home and abuse his wife. The daughter got tired of it one day, so while the man was eating breakfast, the daughter hacked him in the back of the head with an axe, and he fell out of his chair, though still alive. He tried to grab her, but she hacked him until he was dead. She put him in the closet and then the basement. Years later, she confessed, but she was not jailed. Now, obviously, the house is haunted, but one time my grandma took me to see it. We went down, and where his workbench was a little padlock rather, moved. I ran up the hill and jumped in the car as fast as I could, and we left. But come this Halloween, I vow to visit it once again. Well, it's maybe not the ultimate scare, but it's interesting. All right, the next one, California. This one's a quick one. It was in August of 1998. I'd gotten in a fight with my two cousins, and I don't even remember what it was about, and they had isolated themselves from me, and we had a couch that's seat 3 and the couch that's seated 2, and they faced each other, and I was on the big couch, which we called my couch, and my cousins were on the little couch, which we called Franny's couch, my cousin's couch. And I looked at them, and this woman was sitting on the couch with them, literally, almost on top of them. She was chunky with curly blonde hair, glasses, and a pot with a ladle. And she was saying, "Are you children hungry? I could make you some food. What would you like?" Immediately, I ran to the room to tell my grandma, but she was sleeping. And that was the day I also saw my grandma, which is another story that I submitted. Okay. Or my grandpa, rather. Sorry. And later on, I described the lady to my aunt, and I described her to Vicky, and she said that's exactly like my grandma Margaret, which was no relation to me. And she said that Margaret was a big woman who was always in the kitchen and made the best food. I should have taken her up on it then. Said, yeah, we're hungry. California is next again. And this one's a little longer, but this is going to be the last one for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. So grab your seats and hang on, because we're about coming out of the portal. My grandpa, father from the heart, best friend, guardian angel, had died of colon cancer on August 5th of 1998. I had 2 other experiences with him, which were only known to me, and the time he came to all of us, my grandma, my cousin, me, and anyone else who was in our house before he died, and he gave to my little cousin a toy horse for Christmas. This horse only neighed and kicked its left leg and made a galloping noise. He was a big gambler and loved the horse races. And a few months after he died, the horse would go off by itself. And at first we thought, because it was untouched on the shelf, that it was maybe movement automated, because anytime anyone walked by it, it would go off without being touched. After about a week of this, it got more frequent and got so annoying it was going off at all hours, keeping us up all night. My grandmother decided to take out the batteries, and it still went off. And by went off, I mean it made galloping noises and neighed. And it was even worse this time. It was a 24/7 thing. I mean, literally, it never stopped. So my grandmother put it under the bathroom sink, and we were just ordered to keep the door closed. It was hell when we went in there, and this wasn't an unsafe feeling. It was just annoying. After a few days, it finally stopped making noises. It went on like that for only a day, and we woke up one night to the sounds of crying. It was a child's cry, and we all woke up. My Nana, my cousin, me, my stepmom, my aunt, all of us. We searched the whole house for the sound. It didn't sound like it was coming from the bathroom, but my Nana did check the bathroom for the 3rd time, and sure enough, it was the horse. She wrapped it in a towel and put it back under the sink. But that didn't lower the noise. That noise was so terrifying it echoed throughout the house. It went on for maybe 3 days before my Nana threw it outside in the garbage, and then the noise finally stopped. Well, one day, semi-peaceful, thank God, my cousin was running her mouth, talking trash because she was in a bad mood. We all were, and she started talking trash about Jewish people. Roger, my grandfather, was Jewish. Well, out of nowhere, the horse falls off the dresser. No one brought it back in the house. And it just disappeared, and that's the last we ever saw of it. But not the last time we would ever think of it, because my cousin, Franny, has a souvenir, a tiny little round circle embedded on her ankle, where she claims it is from the horse. When it fell off the dresser, it bit her. As crazy as it sounded, she was jumping like crazy that day, saying something bit her. And I looked at her ankle, and there was a hot pink circle on it. No blood, no trace of evidence of it being from the horse. But we like to believe that it was. There you go. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap up our show for tonight. I hope you've enjoyed this journey into the paranormal portal, and thank you to the callers tonight, Sean, and thank you for Wes for calling in. And it's great to hear from you anytime, both of you. I'm the father figure of the family, Renee. And this family's about to be real dysfunctional. That's all I got to say. But I love you all so much. Thank you so much. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. And, of course, I'll be back. Thank you, Sphinx, Silinx. Good to see you. I appreciate it. I appreciate all the praise. It's wonderful. You guys make it great. I just turn on the lights and read you some stories, and you guys make it amazing. So we'll be back tomorrow night for more of the Paranormal Portal Bedtime Stories, and I'll keep you updated as to our struggle to get this podcast launched. Once we get this name thing cleared up, we should be good to go, but I don't know. I'm chomping at the bit, personally. We're all good to go except for that one little hiccup, so we'll see what we can figure out, though. But you guys have a great night. Be good, and sweet dreams.